my name is Micah Watson and I'm a composer and music producer. Welcome to lesson 8 of Mastering Ableton Live series, where I teach you everything there is in the Ableton Live manual. Today we will be looking at chapter 7, and chapter 7 is session view. So last week we looked at arrangement view. So in arrangement view, you arrange your music from left to right, where time starts on 0 or 1 or however you want to look at it, and it goes sequentially to the right. So as you move to the right, time increases. But in session view, things are a little bit different in that you can launch various musical ideas called clips whenever you feel like it, and you can make some improvisatory music like that. Okay, so I've only got 2 clips here. For the sake of demonstration, I don't need more, but obviously you can make a lot better music than just this little melody and this little drum loop. So when you're playing live or when you're DJing, the order of pieces or the length of each piece isn't necessarily known in advance, and that's a time when you'd want to maybe use session view as opposed to playing your song in arrangement view from left to right without being able to kind of insert pauses where you might want to speak or loop an idea over and over again if, I don't know, there's a cool dance going on or whatever. Also in theatre, if you are launching various sound effects to the actions on the stage, you're going to have to react to what happens on stage. And so you can launch clips at the right time as opposed to having a pre-recorded piece of music and the actors need to make sure that they're in time. So there are whole hosts of reasons why you'd want to use session view. So let's talk about how it works. So in session view, you have your tracks vertically like this. And tracks hold musical ideas called music clips. Each clip in the session view has a triangular button over here, which is its play button. And if you hit it and you play the clip, then you can stop it by hitting any stop button below it. So that would be any of these stop buttons in what's called the session grid. Or you can also hit the stop button here in what's called the track status field. You can also control these clips remotely with a computer keyboard or MIDI controller. And you can even map clips to MIDI note ranges to make them play chromatically. And we'll talk about that in chapter 11. Clips can be played at any time in any order. So I can launch this clip at the bottom before I launch this one, no problem. So notice now that once you've hit play on a clip, this arrangement view timer is still going. And the reason it's still going is it's trying to keep the flow of musical time going so that you always know your position in a song during a live performance or while recording an arrangement. So I could have started recording an arrangement. Let's just do something random. And I could have stopped these clips. And maybe at bar 8 I want to launch something again. 3, 4. So that just helps me know where I am at. To stop it, you just hit stop and you can double click the stop button to get it back to the first beat of the first bar. Now you also get things called scenes. So a scene in session view would essentially be all clips that are next to each other horizontally. And scenes you can launch in this master track by hitting the play button on the master track. Now we're playing all the clips at the same time that are in the same horizontal row. If I play this scene over here, note it's very empty, it just contains this one clip. It's only going to play that one clip. I'll talk more about scenes shortly, but let me quickly explain to you what this is. So here I've grouped some tracks. To group a track, you just highlight whichever tracks you want to group by shift-clicking multiple tracks, or you can command-click whichever 2 tracks you want, or 2 or more tracks, and you can right-click and group tracks, or you can hit Command-G, or you can go to Edit Group Tracks. So I'm just going to hit Command-G, and I've grouped them. So you can see there's this new track now, and it looks like it's got a little arm around these 2 guys, kind of hugging them together. Aw, cute. And when you've grouped tracks, you can see these little shaded areas over here. The shaded area shows you 2 things. First of all, it shows you that there are clips in this scene. So note that this is shaded and you can see that there are 2 clips in these 2 tracks that are grouped. And over here, there is no shaded area and there are also no clips over here. And here you've got this clip again and there's a shaded area. The other thing it shows you is that you may notice these colors are different. So this shaded area is like a turquoisey color and this is more of a blue color. The shaded area will take on the color of the clip closest to it. So this clip is closest to it on its right. So it's taking on the color of this clip, and this blue clip over here is closest to the group track. So it's taking on the same color over there. We'll talk about groups and when and why to use them in a further chapter, but basically they are nice when you are always going to launch these two clips at the same time. You can hide these two tracks by hitting this little triangle over here. And when you launch it, let's just see, you've launched both these clips at once. So just save some space. It also helps you when you're creating submixes and when you're creating a bit more order in your live set. Okay, so let's talk about tracks and scenes a little bit. I'm just going to ungroup this, right click, ungroup, or Command Shift G. So as you know, scenes are these horizontal guys, and vertically we have the various different tracks. But now within a track, you can only ever have one clip playing at once. So I can't launch both these clips at the same time, or I can't have them playing at the same time. It's got to be one or the other. As soon as this one launches, this one stops. You can see that because the green turned gray. So as soon as this turns gray, you know that it's stopped. But sessions, on the other hand, can play various clips at the same time, provided they're next to each other. So you can either launch them all at the same time individually like this, and stop them individually like that, or you can go to your master track and launch the whole scene. When you are preparing your session view for improvisation, you should put clips that won't be played at the same time on the same track, and clips that are going to be played at the same time on different tracks. You can also resize this, so if I command click a whole bunch of things and I hover my mouse over here, you see the square bracket. You can resize them all at once, or you can resize an individual track. Or if I've got one track selected and I hit Alt and I try and resize, I resize everything at once. So that's also a nice nifty little tip. Once you launch a scene, the next scene will automatically be selected. So you see how that jumped over there. So I don't know what it's like on your workstation. If I launch it with my mouse, the selection doesn't jump to the next one. But if I launch it hitting enter on my keyboard, it jumps down. Bear in mind, sometimes you'd want things to jump down if you want your ideas to be played sequentially and you just want to hit enter and launch various things. But if you don't like the selection to change, you can go to your preferences, live preferences, and from now on I'm going to just start hitting Command comma for the shortcut, because I end up going to the live preferences a lot. Make sure you're on record warp launch, this tab, and then you can go to the launch section, and by select next scene on launch, make sure this is off. So that way if you launch that section, it's not going to jump down and select the next one. You can also change the color of specific scenes. So if you right click, you get all these cool little colors over here. So I don't know what your favorite color is. Probably not red. And if you decide you don't want a color, you can just hit no color and it'll go back to this default gray color. You can also change the scene names. You can click on a scene and either go right click, rename, or you can hit Command R and you can change the name to whatever. And if you want to keep naming all the other scenes, instead of clicking on them and renaming them, you can just hit tab on your keyboard and it'll go down like that, whatever 3. You can also change the info text, so you can right click and go edit info text, and that way you can write any notes about this particular scene over here. So best scene ever, or you cannot do that if you don't want to. Another cool thing you can do with scenes, which I'm not sure a lot of Ableton users know about, is you can rename it, and you can actually, by renaming it, change the tempo. So let's see, we've started off with 120. So I'm just going to keep that at 120, but say I want, okay, let's just delete this guy. This is doing nothing for me. It was completely empty. Say I want the tempo to change when I launch this clip. Yeah, sure, you can drag your mouse here and you can like change the tempo and all of that, but you can also just rename your scene. And furthermore, if you add a delimiter or character of sorts, so like a space or a comma or a forward slash or some dashes or whatever, you can also change the time signature. So the way you change the time signature through naming your scene is by taking your numerator and denominator and separating them with a forward slash. So now watch this over here. I've launched the scene. I'm going to launch the next one, and the tempo and the time signature are going to change. So note how that changed. If I change it back, however, only the tempo is going to change to 120 BPM. The time signature is not going to change because I haven't specified that yet. So note it's at 120, still 3 beats in a bar. So that's a really cool tip. And also scenes that have tempo and or time signature changes will have a different colored play button over here. So you can see that it's orange as opposed to the default gray. Okay, now let's talk about the track status field. The track status field is this little thing over here. I'm just going to make these a bit bigger so we can see it. Okay, so earlier I mentioned that you can stop playing clips by hitting the stop button in this track status field. But you can also see some other things in the track status field. For instance, you can see a little pie chart thingy over there, and there are 2 numbers on either side of it. So the pie chart will show you how far along into the clip you are visually. So if I hit play, you can see slowly the pie is being eaten. Om nom nom. You can also see this number just changed from 1 to 2. So this clip is being played. This is the second time the clip's being played. Third time the clip's being played. This number over here tells you how many beats there are in the clip. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Should have probably chosen a shorter clip to demonstrate on. But now I've proved to you all that I can count to 16, and that's really, really cool. Okay, but now all of these clips are looping. And that's because if you click on the clip at the bottom, you get your clip settings. And my loop here is highlighted. But if I unloop it, it's going to be called a one-shot clip, which means it'll play once and then it'll stop. Whereas this is a very long clip. So now the track status field looks a little different. For one-shot clips, you don't have pie charts. You've got this baguette that's slowly being eaten. And the number in here is the number in seconds. How many seconds are left? It didn't look so strange earlier because the tempo was 120 BPM, so for each 2 beats 1 second went down, so it did kind of match up. But if your tempo is something weird like 86, which doesn't fit neatly into kind of counting seconds, then it might look a bit disturbing. Having 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. It feels a bit weird, but anyway, this is just a countdown for how many seconds you've got left before you need to launch another clip before it keeps quiet. Oh, you missed it. And now there's this awkward silence in your performance, and Oaks are going to be like, what? Unless you're planning a cool drop, then well done. But yeah, you want to avoid random silences. Dead air is not cool. So 2 other things. If you have an input being monitored, okay, I had to be very careful there just because of the feedback loop, but I hope that you could see when I was monitoring the input, there was a little microphone icon over here, and that's showing you that you're monitoring the input of this particular track. And another icon that will appear in your track status field is if you're playing something from the arrangement. So let's go back to arrangement, and I'm going to hit this back to arrangement button. So if this button is orange, it means you've been playing from the session view, but I want to be playing from the arrangement view, as in I want to be playing these time guys. So I'm going to play it here. And if I go to the session view, I've got this other kind of, not a baguette this time, but also this rectangular thing. And it's showing me kind of where I am in the arrangement view. Okay, now let's talk about setting up the session view grid. So you can import clips through the browser. Sometimes you might want to be importing clips and it won't let you. And that's because clips typically have their own devices and their own settings, and so they might need their own track to set up all their gear down here. But if you go to the sample, like an audio clip that doesn't have any other tracks, you should be able to just drag them into any audio track. So if I do just a normal drag, they will go into the track vertically like this. But if I want them all on separate tracks to create a scene with them, you can select the same 4, hold command, take your mouse and then drag them, and you can see that they are now horizontal, and you need to let go of the mouse before you let go of command. So if you move these guys and then I let go of command and then I let go of the mouse, it's on a track, and that's no good. So just follow through to the end. If you launch a clip, typically your selection will change and you'll select this clip, which means all the data you see down here will be the data that corresponds to the clip that you're launching. So for instance, if I want to launch this clip over here, everything here changes to see it. But you might not want this, in particular if you've got some kind of return track set up, like say for instance you've got reverb here, and you launch a clip that's rooted to the reverb and you actually want to rather be working and changing your reverb settings, then you might want to switch that off. So again, go to live preferences or command comma, and go to record, warp launch, and then under launch, select on launch. You can switch this off. That way, when you launch this clip, you see nothing changed here. Didn't actually select the clip. If you want to select it, you're going to have to double click it. select this one, nothing changes here. If I change the preference to select on launch, it changes back. And now here's another tip that a lot of Ableton users don't know about either, but you can remove these stop buttons. Just right click, remove stop button, or you can go Command E. I think that's it. Alright, why on earth do you want to remove the stop button? Well, if you are launching a scene, so for instance, let's just put the stop buttons back. I just Command Z twice, so undo twice, and then it put the stop buttons back. But if I've launched this scene, what you don't realize, it's not just launching these 3 clips, it's also launching this stop button and this stop button. So when I launch the next clip, there was a brief moment where these stop buttons went green. And so what it essentially did, it stopped anything that was in this track. So when I launched from this scene to this scene, the reason that 3 audio stopped is because that this scene actually stopped it by hitting the stop button. So just have a look. You saw that. But now if I remove the stop button and I launch this scene and then go to the scene below it, this clip's going to keep playing because there's no command to stop it. Have a look. It's still playing. So that's a time where you might want to remove the stop button, and it's a really cool little feature, so just be aware of that. You can also edit scenes, so you can cut and copy and paste like you can with kind of all the other things. I'm just using the Command X to cut, Command V to paste, and you can also go Command C to copy, Command V to paste. And if you don't know the difference between cut and copy, I'll tell you quickly. So Command X, which cuts something, will essentially cut the clip away, but it's still stored on your clipboard. That's what they call, I guess, a bit of memory on your computer, so that you can just paste what you've cut. But when you copy it, you're essentially doing the same thing, but you're creating a copy. So you're not taking this away, you just copy and pasting it. I'm not going to go into detail because I assume you all already know. You can also duplicate these things. So all I did is I clicked it, I held Alt, and I moved my mouse down. And you can see that that little paper icon has a plus. And that's essentially telling you that you're duplicating it as opposed to cutting it and moving it. But there are also 2 other editing things and scenes that I want to tell you about. So if you go to Create, you can go Insert Scene, and that'll insert a whole new scene below your current selection. So this whole scene. And another thing that you can do, this isn't selection specific, this is what's activated specific, if that makes sense. So this scene, I've selected it, but it's active, it's playing. So I can select another scene here. If I go to Create, Capture, and Insert Scene, it's going to capture the scene that's active, the one that's playing, not the one that is selected. And it's going to create a new scene that contains the same data. So it captured it and it inserted it below the selection, but it inserted the scene that was active. It might not have been so visible just because my selection was so low down. Okay, now let's talk about recording sessions into the arrangement. So we've spoken about this before. Hit record over here, and you can launch the scenes that you want. You can see that it's red and it's recording. There you go. When you're done, you can hit spacebar or hit that stop button. When you're recording, it's recording not just the clip's launch, but also any changes to the clip's properties that you make down here, or any changes of the mixer and device controls. So that would be called automation, and that would be things like changing your volume while you're recording. So changing the volume here. And if you look over there, let's zoom in. This little red squiggle here represents what I just did when I moved the mouse up and down here. And it also captures tempos and time signature changes if they're included in your scene names. And you can actually see here how the time signature changed. It was 3/4 over there. So these little red dots over here at the bottom will show you where the tempo change are. There's like a little red line over there. So we're at 120 BPM 86, just changed to 120. And then it changed to 86 again, and then it's going to change to 120. So another nifty thing, if you're playing back in arrangement view and you hit the stop button in session view, it actually stops the arrangement view. So that's another cool thing. The reason that also makes sense if you're playing, back to arrangement, start again. You can see here how it's playing through your arrangement. So by hitting stop, you're stopping everything that's being displayed in this scene, if you want to call it that. Furthermore, you can also change and move clips from your arrangement view into your session view. So let's just go back to arrangement view. I can rubber band select. So what that means is click in an empty space and just pull your mouse over, and I can select this region and I can click and drag it to this little arrangement icon over here. Sorry, the session icon, and drag it in. It doesn't make new tracks for you. You're going to have to find other tracks to put it on. But there we go. So that's one thing you can do. You can also rubber band select whatever you want, and you can go to create, consolidate time to new score. That's going to make new samples from all the clips that are in each track. So you're going to have one sample for everything in this track, one sample for everything in 3 audio, one sample for everything in 4 audio, and it's going to create tracks in the session view that contains these clips from the arrangement view. So these are my new clips. Why would you want to do this? Well, not everyone plays around with session view and then refines it in arrangement view. Some people actually create a song in arrangement view and then want to improvise on their stuff. Or they've written a composition and they want to perform it live with some variables thrown in. So then you can turn it into a session view item, which can be used for live performance. So I hope that this helped, and next week we will be talking about clip view, which is when you double click on a clip and you can see all your clip properties that can be adjusted. So thanks for watching, and see you next week.